They put bargaining unit members that are what I would call the bootlickers in some of these meetings. You know, it's an intimidation factor. But everything they did along the way actually just drove the workers to the union.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We have on the line Dwayne Johnson, Secretary Treasurer and Director of Organizing for Teamsters Local 322 in Virginia, and Matthew Relford, a employee at Genesis Logistics, also in Virginia. Matthew, Dwayne, welcome to the Valley Labor Report. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Really looking forward to the conversation. We are bringing y'all, we wanted to bring you on the show because Matthew was just part of a very, very winning campaign at Genesis, won by something like an 80% vote at a big unit, with a big unit like 200 or 300 people. And so, Matthew, can you talk to us about like what do you do at Genesis? What does Genesis, the company, do for folks? And then what made, how did the campaign get started?
Okay, yeah, so we deliver fresh goods to 7-Eleven, the Class A trucks. But what made us get started was just the unfairness of paid wages and PTO, holiday, the respect as a driver. The list goes on, but it was a lot.
Right. Very similar, whenever we talk to folks when they want to organize a union, it's always very similar things. And particularly, the one that is, I think, very surprising for folks who are not in union campaigns is that, the respect is such a big thing for folks. Like even in some campaigns, and I can't speak to yours, but even in some campaigns, the just being treated without dignity and respect can even be a bigger motivating factor than higher wages or the health insurance stuff.
Yep.
Dwayne, does the Teamsters represent drivers at Genesis Logistics across the country?
Yes, it's a DHL supply chain. So I believe we have like 3 or 4 other Genesis locations across the country on the West Coast and on the East Coast. And we have a lot of other supply chains as well as Express. So, I mean, DHL North America is one of our core industries we represent.
And when I was reading, the press releases and the news reporting about this, I noticed that Genesis is a subsidiary of DHL. And, I've been doing this radio program for 5 years. I've had a lot of Teamsters come on the program, and I've talked about DHL Teamsters. And so I'm like, this is a company that is not unfamiliar with unions. And yet what the Teamsters have been saying is that DHL ran a really anti-union campaign during the election. Dwayne, what were some of the things that the company did during the election that were, in some cases, potentially violative of the law? And why were they doing that, given that, this is a company that has experience with the Teamsters?
Well, I mean, they just know that once we get past the election, we get to contract that they're not going to have the ability to do what they've been doing to these workers. I mean, this location's been open for a little over 3 years, right, Matthew?
Yep.
And their pay has gone backwards. I mean, drastically. And we're talking about skilled drivers. I mean, I'm a truck driver myself, and you're talking about guys that are taking 48, 53-foot trailers into little 7-Eleven parking lots. I mean, you just can't grab a rookie driver and throw them into a 7-Eleven parking lot where you have pedestrians and vehicles and gas pumps, and it's manual labor. It's hard to even find truck drivers that want to unload trucks. A lot of them like no freight, but these guys actually have to pull it all out on hand carts, and tote it into the store. But they did all kinds of nasty things. They try to get around the captive audience meeting stuff because, right now, those aren't allowed. But they did other things like hold their paperwork and their keys. This part is voluntary, but you can't start your day until we get this part done. So, but the guys did good. They walked out of the room. Most of them, they won't listen to anything they had to say. We would set up at a hotel close by. We had a conference room there. One of our first meetings we had with the workers there, we noticed one of the HR guys from DHL was in the parking lot surveilling. Like
Yeah.
20 something people saw this guy there, and it did scare some folks off. And they put folks in there to bargaining unit members that are what I would call the bootlickers. They planted those in some of these meetings when some of the workers knew who they were. So kind of it's an intimidation factor. But everything they did along the way actually just drove the workers to the union. The folks that were on the fence, I don't know. We'll wait and see. When the company started their union busting tactics, it just solidified their decision. They're just like, you know what, we're not dealing with this. We're going to do it.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, Matthew, I've got the press release up now, and it said that y'all had a 90% pro-union, yes vote during the election. I mean, that is really big, especially in these larger units. It looks like it was a unit of 214 people, and
Yes.
that is a very difficult thing to do. What do you think was the secret sauce to getting so many of your workers to vote so decisively in favor of unionization with the Teamsters?
Well, it definitely was hard work of organizing and having everyone come together. But the secret sauce was really we had a strong committee. We had a strong OC committee guys, and then we got our organizers. As Dwayne guys pretty much instructing us and directing us in the right way. And I mean, these guys had this thing down, like a playbook. We followed what they said. We did it as far as OC, and we did the groundwork. We just all came together, and then everything that they pretty much laid out that was happening. It just everything just worked out in our favor, and and Genesis played that playbook, the exact same playbook. So literally, what our organizers was telling us, that's what they did, and the people seen it. So they really shot themselves in the foot because they was very unprepared, because they thought this day would never happen. They really thought that we would never come together, because these people went hard, like drilling us from my very first day, coming in there, being, they didn't want the union in the building. They pretty much drilled that in us. They made an example out of a couple of people, who tried to start talking about it. Next thing you know, they was gone, So yeah, this is it was definitely tough, but we came together, we stuck together, and we conquered, man.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. Dwayne, I have a question for you as like a local union official. When there are a lot of folks that union leaders get inevitably lots of folks coming to them saying, I want to form a union, and I am the president of the Labor Council here in North Alabama, and so I get a lot of these inquiries, and I always follow up. And ultimately, sometimes it'll go a little ways, and then it'll fizzle out, and there's ultimately not as much kind of initiative there to really see it through, and people kind of get discouraged when things come up. How do you tackle when folks come to you, presumably what happened is some of the drivers here at Genesis came to Local 322 and said that we want to form a union. What are the next steps in your mind as you think about, does the union take on this campaign? Do we start investing resources? Like, how does that decision-making process look?
Well, I mean, we want to help every worker. We believe everyone needs a union, but the issues there has to be issues there. For most of the times. But one is just to listen to the workers, find out what the issues are, and then work around those issues and see if it's just a small group of people or if it's on a larger scale. I knew from my second or third meeting with these guys that this was going to be a landslide election, just because their issues were unified. I mean, now, sometimes you have some people that are worried about one thing, and then you have another group that was worried about another issue. These guys are unified across the board. It was like a broken record. Everybody had the same exact issues. Everybody was upset. They were beat down. They were tired. But those are things we look at. We slowly come into when we start talking with workers. Our biggest thing is just to hear their grievances and agitate them, and then also we want to. We want to see how many, if it's really there, but we want to inoculate everybody on the process. And I think that's like the key here. I've been telling these drivers from the beginning, I'm not here to help you guys win an election for a union certification. We're here to win a contract, because having a strong union contract is what matters to the unit, to the members. And they all agree with me. They're like 100%. And I was like, well, no matter what I asked you to do, I need you to do these things as we go along the way. As just think of it as the election is just one of the battles in the war. Getting the contract is what we're ultimately here to do. And as we're marching down this road, we're going to ask you to do certain things. I need you to trust us here. Everything's built off of trust, so won't lie, won't promise anything to anybody. The only thing I'll promise to them is that the Teamsters will have your back all the way to the end here. No matter what, we have your back. And we showed that to them, and they showed up for us. When we did the March on the Boss, we had somebody, he's like, hey, is this necessary? And it's like, I definitely feel this is necessary. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But there's a group here that want to do it. But that worker ended up doing it, and I think it was kind of liberating to him.
Right.
They did an awesome March on the Boss while the warehouse was in full swing. It was awesome.
And so, Matthew, as we're winding the interview down, you've won the election, and like like Dwayne said, the next step is really, you've gotten yourself ready to actually fight the battle. It's time to negotiate the contract. What are you looking for in your first contract with Genesis?
Definitely get our PTO correct, holiday pay, let's see, safety bonuses. Man, we're just looking for the basic stuff that we're supposed to be getting, that they provide for a regular Genesis that we never got.
Well, that sounds great, brother. Wish you luck. Keep us updated. Once you get your first contract, I'd like to have you back on. Like to give you a little victory lap. Matthew Relford, Genesis Logistics employee in Virginia. Dwayne Johnson, Secretary-Treasurer, Teamsters Local 322, and Director of Organizing for the Local. Thank you both so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.